started it. Go ahead, Brenda.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, welcome everybody. This is our executive committee meeting for midwinter, although obviously we missed the meeting in Boston, but so here we are. So in terms of introductions, I think we all pretty much know each other. Does anyone want to introduce themselves if they're not familiar with us all? No, I guess not. Okay. Even though I think I forgot it on the agenda, I guess the next thing to do is to approve the minutes from San Francisco's annual meeting in 2015. I circulated those with the announcement for the meeting, so hopefully y'all have had a chance to review them.
I just posted them.
You just posted them to the CEAS website?
To the website about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, but I think I did. I think I attached them to one of the announcements. So did I do that? Can someone verify that I remembered to?
I believe so. Yes.
I think you did.
All right. So going on the assumption that people have read them, I mean, shall we have a motion to approve?
I second.
Sure.
Okay. Well, that was easy. Okay. So I guess the minutes from San Francisco Annual are now officially approved. I had the first report from the nominating committee from John DeSantis, but he's not here. I remember he said they do have 2 candidates lined up for the election this year. I'm not sure who they are. Maybe we'll find out if he pops in. Or is he allowed to say ahead of time? I don't know what the rules are.
I don't know either.
I think you can probably tell the executive committee who's going to stand in for the elections. It's not. I don't think that's a secret.
Well, once the ballot's out, then we'll know for sure. Then, okay. All right. So, skipping over that. Oh,
I don't think it should be a surprise to the chair.
Well, I do know one because someone said to me that they will be, but I don't know who the other person is. So
I have a question: is ALA Counselor at Large is considered the nomination?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
The ALA Counselor at Large, is it considered the nomination? Is it considered as the nomination for elections, the position of ALA Counselor at Large?
I don't know.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify because I'm running for that. So
that I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
I'll see if I don't know. I'm making a note. I'll see what I can find out.
In case, since I'm in the audience, I just did not want you to be surprised, so that's why I was just telling.
Oh, I understand. Okay, so next would be the ABC committee report. And that's you, Mushkan.
Okay. So I also sent you the minutes a little while ago, and I just wanted to let you know I just found out that I know that we have to approve them, but I just wanted to let you know that it was sort of a draft version of the minutes. We tried to schedule the meeting, under sort of rush, so it was done, and we will make some edits to the present minutes, and I will just kind of give you the snapshots of the minutes because apparently you had a chance to look at them and you have seen the discussion. So we'll start with gubernias, and you apparently read Larissa's email communication, and this is something that we will be working on with LC to have a correct qualifier for it and make all the necessary corrections in the NARS for gubernias in 667 field. We also briefly touched the SACA funnel, and Lana just shared her experiences with that, and we talked about how we can publicize it more among Slavic librarians, and we also had the ideas, how we can link it from Slavic cataloging manual site or CIS web page. We talked about Slavic cataloging manual task force progress, and I will present Larissa's report on that, so I'm not concentrating on that much. And we discussed that the link in Catalogers desktop to Slavic cataloging manual should be updated as well. And again, we discussed the issues of publicity of the manual. And I don't know if, I have to share it, but apparently you're aware that Larissa also proposed a panel at ACES conference next year in DC, and the panel on the Slavic cataloging manual was proposed that we will be sharing our experiences, the members who participated. We also discussed the proposal on Joseph Brodsky class number, and Lana actually put it together, and she already submitted it to the Library of Congress. One of the last issues discussed was how we want to tribute to Jackie Bird's work, and there were few ideas, and I would like actually to ask the executive committee's opinion and suggestions, how we can do that. Some ideas which were put forward was to add a tribute to her as a news item on the homepage of the new Slavic cataloging manual. Thomas suggested to making a reprise of the article Jackie wrote in 2000 about previous update of Slavic cataloging manual for CCQ. I was going to talk to you if we can order a commemorative plate that would be presented to her. There were some suggestions from Larissa, and in terms of what kind of honorable award we can make, or even a small gift. We were just brainstorming different ways to express our appreciation for all her contributions. And the last item was we discussed the merger with WES. Some of the members, they didn't have, they weren't present at the past meetings, and they did not have any idea. So people who had some information, we were discussing and sort of addressing some of the questions. But as Brenda discussed at the beginning of this meeting before everyone joined, she will be sending the information, more accurate information about the merger details, and we're all looking forward for it. So the meeting lasted 1 hour and adjourned at 3:05 p.m. Thank you. That's it.
Great. As for the tribute idea, I like the idea. I'm not sure which would be the most appropriate. Any other people want to chime in on that? No? Well, again, we can, after the meeting, we don't have to make any decisions now, but I think it is a nice idea to do, considering everything that she has done. Now, I did receive the minutes from your meeting, but I have not gone over them. And one of the questions I remember being raised before about the Slavic cataloging manual, where will it be hosted once it's complete? Is that going to be with Jeff, or do you have anyone lined up to host it?
I think that is a very good question, and I think for now it will be hosted with Jeff, but I believe early in the process we also discussed the financial side of hosting and server place or server space and all that, and maybe John will have a little bit more information. If he had if he had brainstormed with Jeff before, but I don't have that much information. But my understanding is for now it will be with Jeff.
Okay. I will be reading your report, so looking forward to finding out more about
but thank you so much for that question, and I will, and apparently if Larissa were here, she would be the good person, because she would have known for sure.
I think the issue was it's not just hosting it. I mean, I'd be happy to host it here.
But supporting, yeah.
Exactly. I don't know if I have the time or ability to do that. So that's something, when it comes down to that time.
And actually that will be this in Larissa's report in terms of next steps.
Mm-hmm.
We're suggesting that a new task force should be formed on supporting, and maybe hosting should be part of it in terms of making sure that it's updates are done in a timely manner and this stuff. So maybe this is something which will be discussed and taken into consideration.
Yes, good. Okay, any other questions?
Where is it hosted right now? Isn't it hosted on a Google site?
No, I think it's still at Indiana on Jackie's account. Last time I looked at it.
Because I thought Jeff was transferring everything into a new Google Sites platform a separate account. I thought he was doing that.
Yeah, that's what I think is the case.
Oh, is it active now? Because just the other day I looked at the Indiana version, which I realize isn't completely up to date yet, but.
No, the old one is on Indiana version, but the new one is Google platform.
What we did, Brenda, is Jeff copied the Indiana version, and then we edited it to the bone. Pretty much, it's all different with different chapters, but it is on a site, Google Sites website.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was not aware, because I've still been referring to the older one with, taking it with a grain of salt, of course.
It's not completely finished. It's still being edited. That old.
Not active. He just sort of copied, and he hasn't changed much to keep the structure before he updates all the chapters on the one which is on the Google site.
Well, let me go back. So is the Google site one, it's not officially complete, but is it active? Can people look at what is complete? Is it open for business, basically?
No, it's not open for business. Okay. It's open just for people who are working.
Good, because if there were, we would have to make sure people had the link to it. But since it's not officially open for business, then we'll just leave it be for now.
I was going to say there's no link to it from the C site, so I was looking for it. I'm like, wait, there's no link. I don't even see a link to the Indiana site on the C site. Where would that be? It's not on the main page. Do we need to add a link to the current cataloging manual on there?
It's not a bad idea.
Manual, so it'll be soon.
I know people can get it through Cataloger's desktop. LC maintains a link, but that is pointing currently to, again, the older version at Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of surprised if it isn't on the C site somewhere.
I don't know what the URL is, but who's the content editor for the ABC committee?
The content editor.
Yes.
I have been just putting some links and some information. We don't have content editor per se, but I was given some responsibilities, and I have included some information about the Slavic cataloging task force, and I put the rosters of the previous committee members. I just kind of sort of maintenance stuff, but
could you
I don't know if I can be considered the content person.
Well, sounds like you're the content editor right now.
Okay.
Do you want to add a link to the
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I will add the link to the old one for now, because we don't have official link to the new one.
It might not be a bad idea to maybe add a note to it indicating that this is the one at Indiana that you're linking to is somewhat outdated, but there is a new one in progress.
In progress, I will do that.
So people can realize what they're seeing there is still based on the ACR2, not RDA, et cetera, but at least it gives them somewhere to start.
Yeah, and then we also have first Larissa's first report link there too, so people can take a look at it if they want. Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
Good
All
idea.
right. All right, anybody else with any questions or comments on the ABC or the Slavic Cataloging Manual? No, okay, let's move on then. The next is the newsletter editorial board, and I believe that is Mark. Are you here?
I am here.
There you are. Hey, thank you.
So the newsletter committee met on January the 19th. We moved ahead. I'm the new co-chair along with Margarita Nefpaktitis at UCLA. So we're going to move ahead with the newsletter for this year. I sent out an email yesterday to SlavLib's listserv, which hopefully people have seen and can get content to the different section editors by February the 19th. So we can move ahead with our deadline. The completed newsletter is due to ACRL on April 25th, 2016. So Margarita will be covering the news from the U.S. and Canada. Joe Lenkart will be doing the news from abroad. Lisa Baker and Masha Stepanova will be tag teaming the grants and acquisitions again. I'll be covering the transitions, and Sandra Levy will be doing the bibliography. I also put out a call to get some interesting submissions from the wider community for our librarian profile this year. And so I've just received a couple of suggestions and some offers to write about libraries and profile from all different parts of Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union. So I think I'll be contacting each of the volunteers and also communicating with the rest of the newsletter committee to see kind of what they're interested in, what they're voting for, what they'd like to hear from this year. And hopefully we won't be able to publish all of them, all of the suggestions for a librarian profile, maybe just one or two, but maybe we would have one waiting in the wings for next year's issue. John also provided, as usual, an update on our treasury and on the website. So we'll be certainly making updates to that as the completed newsletter is done. We'll be sure to update the CEES website with that information. And I think that's all I have to report on. I will be in touch with Brenda for the letter from the chair, which doesn't have to be due quite as soon as other content for section editors.
Oh, darn, I thought you forgot about me.
I certainly did not.
Oh, darn. Okay. Well, that's good. I was worried that with the very short deadline of having something ready, but if you can give me a little more time, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, yes, we certainly can. And we kind of got a later start this year due to a number of different issues. So I know it's a little bit more of a crunched submission deadline, but I'll be sending out emails again, and we'll certainly try and incorporate any information that comes in after deadlines as much as we can.
Okay, sounds good. Anyone else? Any questions, comments? And I think John DeSantis, are you here now? I know he's logged in. I haven't heard his voice yet. Okay. Well, until we'll come back to you, John, if you can hear us. If you can get your microphone situation sorted out, you may need to look at the system settings on your computer to unmute it. Okay, shall we move along then? Next would be access and preservation, and I believe that's Lindsay. Are you there? Anybody?
Well, Lindsay says that she still can't talk, but she has sent a link to the minutes via chat.
Oh, okay. I know when she first joined, we couldn't hear her. She logged out and came back in. I thought we did finally hear her voice, but sounds like it's...
Yeah, it's back. Would you like me to read her chat postings? Can everyone see her link to the minutes?
I do not see the link. Let me... No, I don't see a link. Was it in the chat section?
It's in the chat. It's in the chat box.
Oh wait, no, I think I scrolled right past it. Can everybody see it? Oh, here it is. So we link through. Okay, here we go. Can everybody see them?
She just reposted the link. So Lindsay says she still can't talk, and she has asked, committee members for submission for a newsletter, and then she says, here are the actions. Here are the action items from our meeting. She also says, I've tried everything I can, still can't unmute my microphone. Okay. So item 1 was identify criteria for inventory of North American Seas digital collections, building on work that Kevin has already done. Kevin and Lindsay are in charge of that action item. The next one was digital humanities and Slavic fields. So Lindsay is to add links provided by Aaron and Megan to the ANP page on the Seas website, and Aaron and Megan are to provide more info to committee and wider Seas on plans for on-conference, possibly THAT camp, that camp, preceding next ACES conference. And let's see if there's anything else. So those are the action items, and then the rest of the minutes are available on the ALA Connect website with the link that she provided. Lindsay's soliciting questions from us.
Sorry, I was just briefly skimming through that document. Anybody have anything to say? Any questions? Such a quiet group, my goodness. Well, if no one has anything, I mean, maybe a matter of, you know, we don't really have the time for everyone to sit and read it in depth. So probably what we can do, well, again, we'll make sure you have access to this link. It'll be part of our final minutes. And then if you have questions or comments, you can probably just submit them directly to Lindsay after the fact. Does that sound like a reasonable approach to this?
Yeah, just to me.
And Lindsay agrees. Okay. All right. I want to check in. I see John is, again, logged in, but you cannot speak. Is that correct? I guess it is. That is correct. well, since we have you and you're here, do you want to just briefly in the chat box report on the nominating committee? If you have anything new? Okay, he's going to do that. If you can't see the chat, if you look at the upper right-hand corner, there's a button for chat, and it'll open at the bottom of the screen. Can everybody see the chat, or should one of us read it for anyone who can't see it?
I'll just read it, Brenda, since I volunteered to be in charge of this chat thing. So, sure. John says, as all of you may know, we have 2 nominees for chair-elect in this year's election. The candidates are Higin Hakabian and Lana Saglasnova. The ballots have been finalized by ACRL and are ready to go.
Well, that's good. Having 2 candidates, I think the last few, we've only had 1 running unopposed, so that's good. All right, any other questions, comments? Yes, John says he's grateful to both candidates for their willingness to run, and we all are. Thank you both. Higina and Lana. I guess Higina's not here today, but Lana is. Okay, anything else you want to say, John? Okay, that's it. No problem. She's apologizing for technical difficulties. It happens to all of us at one point or another. Okay, so let's see. Coming up next, Program Planning Committee. That's you, Thomas.
Yes. So essentially, our committee decided to co-sponsor a program with Wes and Les on collecting digital and print ephemera associated with high impact events, things like Charlie Hebdo and Euromaidan and that kind of thing. So we did submit a proposal. It was rejected, and the committee sort of got together and sort of voted on whether we thought we should just save it for another time, or whether we should organize an informal forum that wouldn't be on the program, but that we could have a room for. So I actually voted to just leave it for another year, largely because I'm not sure what attendance is going to be like in Orlando. But the vast majority voted in favor of organizing a forum. So the challenge there has been, for representing our part of the world, has been that, and I put all this in the minutes that I sent around, but has been that none of the librarians, at least that I'm aware of, who have been actively collecting ephemera, that kind of ephemera, were planning to go to ALA, with the possible exception of Lilith Har, but I don't think he's going either. So what we wound up coming up with was an idea that we would have someone from Eastview talk about sort of on-the-ground collecting of print ephemera. And that a librarian would join them, and that will either be Brad Schaffner or possibly myself, more likely Brad, will basically give the librarian perspective and they'll give the vendor perspective. So that is happening. Then we talked a little bit about sort of ideas for the future, and one that Brad suggested was some interaction between, or some collaboration rather, for program planning between ACRLCs and the, what is it? I'm trying to look it up now. It's the East Eurasian something, but anyways, it's the Eurasian and something else subcommittee of IRC, the International Relations Committee of ALA, of which Brad is the chair. And those are the broad strokes. I'm trying to dig up my own minutes so I can read the name of that, the proper name of that subcommittee, but I'm not seeing them here. here we go. It is the Eurasia and Central Asia Subcommittee of IRC. And that's pretty much it. Any questions for me?
Anybody? Any questions?
I like it.
Well, thank you, Thomas.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Was this the first time that the ALA has rejected one of the program proposals? I haven't really heard of that happening.
I hope not. That would be an unfortunate distinction.
Well, I just wonder if with the contracted, schedule that they introduced a number of years ago, if there's like fewer slots now, so they have to be more selective.
Well, they did say so. Lydia Uziel at Harvard, who's the chair of the program planning committee for West, she did ask them, why it was rejected, and they said that their acceptance rate was relatively low this year. Like and I don't remember what it was, but something like they accepted 2/3 of the proposals or fewer, or something like that. Why, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty surprised myself.
Yeah, that was my impression, that they must be accepting less because, all of them that have been proposed in the last, as long as I can remember, have been accepted. So something's going on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're not taking no for an answer this time around, so we're having a forum.
I think it's a fascinating topic. I'm really surprised it was rejected because, Maidan and then Hebdo those are pretty significant events. Well,
and sadly, I mean, events, like that, or mass shootings, et cetera, just seem to keep happening. So it's kind of it is very au courant. But there you have it.
That was a good question, John, because while Thomas was dealing with all these issues, I was being kept up to date. I had the same thought, like, how often do they reject this kind of thing? And I didn't know. So, well, at least.
Right, and sorry.
I was going to say, at least, you managed to get something together, and that's the main point.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have a question, comment? Okay, again, such a quiet group. I don't understand this. Okay, I guess that we've heard from all the committees, and the only other agenda item, which is probably the most important thing on everyone's mind, updates about the proposed merger between CEAS and WES. And that's me. First of all, I'll apologize that I've not been keeping people up to date on what's been happening, and I intend to do a better job as things progress. So just to give you a brief update on what happened in San Francisco at ALA Annual, several of us CEAS members, it was myself, Thomas, Lana, and Higina, we met with the chair and vice chair of WES, which was Sarah Sussman, she's now the past chair, and Jeff Steiger, who's the current chair. And we just had an informal meeting to talk about, how to, some of the questions about, well, if and when we merge, do we merge newsletters, websites? What happens to certain committees? Because there's not a one-to-one correspondence between the committees of both groups. And we didn't really come up with any answers for any of them because, obviously we can't make those decisions all on our own. But it seems like the merger is pretty much going to happen. WES acknowledged that, the reason, the CEAS is facing this is low membership numbers. And currently they're above the 400 member threshold, but not so much above it that they feel like they're safe. So they acknowledge that, the merger would be a good move for them too. And then also including, there's more room for cooperation. I mean, there's already been a lot of cooperation in terms of planning the different programs and forums and whatnot. So this might just streamline things a little bit. And then before I go on, I would say if Lana or Thomas, since you were there, if you have anything you want to add that I may have been overlooking. I guess when it happens, we're just going to go with a generic European Studies section is the proposed name for it. Earlier in the year, the African, Asian, and Middle Eastern section approached CEAS, and I think Wes as well, for a possible merger with them, but they have since abandoned that plan. I don't know what their plans are, but that's not really of concern to us at this time. Let's see. Jeff Seiger, who's the West Chair, he's made his report to Wes, and I will be putting out a similar report. It will be included in the newsletter. But one question I have for y'all, and it's basically procedural. I don't know, when I do distribute things like reports and updates, should I just be doing that to the executive committee, or should I put that out on SlavLibs to the general public? I don't know if there's a precedent or if this is considered, you know, like not so much confidential, but if you know what I'm getting at. Does anyone have any thoughts, or if there's an answer to that?
I don't know, you know, what the precedent is. I would say SlavLibs maybe not, because that is sort of a little public, perhaps. I mean, I guess we could there's either ALA Connect, which I'm assuming all CEAS members would have access to.
They should, yes.
Okay.
I just wish we had a mailing list of just CEAS members.
We could put one together.
Well, there's a difference between all CEAS members and active CEAS members as well. So,
right.
You know, if we're looking at putting together 180, I think we're at 180 or 170, we may need to, maybe ACRL can help us out and, you know, produce that list for us rather than trying to build it ourselves. But that's something
I've actually been receiving membership rosters lately, so.
Okay.
But yeah, we can consider it, or put it up on, you know, ALA Connect. Or.
Okay, I'll ask Megan sometime next week how we can better distribute the information, but not put it out on SlavLibs for general consumption.
Well, what is the?
Well,
I just wonder what are some of the reasons why we might not send it out to SlavLibs? Are there things that we don't?
Nothing that I can think. To me, I always just think of it as sort of like an abundance of caution, that any time there's sort of meeting minutes and records of things that people said, sometimes, I mean, no, you're right. I can't imagine, you know, a circumstance where in this group where somebody would say something that, you know, would get them in trouble later. But
well, the report could be redacted to, you know, like eliminate individual names, just saying, you know,
right.
But maybe there are some other things that maybe not be appropriate for, you know, the whole group. I
can't think of them.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't think of them either. But it's just the practice that I'm used to from committees is that they usually.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why I asked the question. I wasn't sure if it's something that, again, that everyone not so much needs to know about or wants to know about. You know. But again, I can check with Megan and find out, you know, if it's something we should just keep amongst ourselves, or, again, I don't, much like you, I don't understand that there's anything that's so secret, but when I find out, I will.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brenda, but can we post it on the site, and then everyone who wants or who can, they can access it from his site while we still have it?
Well, that is a very good idea. I'm glad you said that. You pointed out the obvious. So, okay.
That would make sense. Then you could send a message to SlavLibs and people who
will.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because, again, I just overlooked the obvious there. So that's a good idea. Thank you. And that'll eliminate the need for a mailing list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Mushkan. And I think my microphone works. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Indeed.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello.
All right. Oh, getting back to some of the merger things. Again, I have a brief thing typed up that I'm going to, after this, I'll give to Muzgan to put on the website, and I'll let y'all know about it. But to give you like what's coming up, sometime this month, Jeff and I are going to start talking more. Some of the questions we have for ACRL, you know, we're working towards having a vote of both groups on whether to move forward, you know, for approval on the merger. And some of the more, you know, bureaucratic things are what constitutes an affirmative vote? Is it a simple majority of both respective memberships, or is there some other standard of approval? How will the vote, you know, really be carried out? Let's see. Yeah, would it be by mail, email, some sort of web? So in the next month or so, he and I are going to talk about some of those things. Another thing we sort of not so much agreed on, but some of the questions I mentioned earlier about what happens to the websites. Do we maintain our own? Are they going to be merged somehow? There were concerns that they use a wiki type approach for their website versus ours is on a Google thing. And similarly with the newsletters, we want to merge them, maintain separate ones. And we all sort of came to the conclusion that we don't really have to make those decisions ahead of time. We can lay some of the groundwork, but the merger itself can happen, and some of those decisions could be made afterward. So does anyone have any feelings on those issues? Mind you, the one committee that for sure the slots have maintained that we want to retain is what we're currently calling ABC, but basically the cataloging side of it. But as for the others, newsletters, websites, etc., does anyone have any thoughts on those?
I do.
Okay.
I think we should retain the newsletter committee. I mean, it's really the only history of the kind of the field that we keep. And so I think the content there is important to retain.
I would agree with John. I think that it's a really unique resource for the field. And I really feel like not that the world is swimming in area studies or area specialists nowadays, but that the Slavic and East European side could really get drowned out in WES. And so I think keeping a separate side, especially with the bibliography, with the transitions, would be really important.
Yeah, it really provides an active service opportunity for, a good number of people in the field. People come on, people go off, but, and the work they do is pretty substantial, the writing of sections, the calls for sections, the editing. So it's a really nice service point that, becomes part of people's careers. So I think we should fight to maintain it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of a fight we're going to need, but I understand your point.
Tongue-in-cheek, of course.
There could be some arm wrestling. I don't know. So I'm guessing you feel the same about the website, maintaining a separate one? What do you think of that?
It's interesting. During this meeting, I've had some new ideas about website. That their website's really kind of different. It's a resource page. It's kind of like the old internet directories that we used to all create for a field or for something. You drill down into each country and so I mean ours is it's really not that type of website. It's a website for the functioning of the section only, right? And there's really not that subject resource component to our website. So I don't know what a new joint website might look like, but I would think that a new joint website might be more of a kind of a functioning of the field, and then they could retain the wiki for its its deep content. But I am not in favor of just putting some of our data onto their wiki. I mean, the whole reason that we went to a new website is so that we could have distributed management of content, and so it wouldn't be tied to any one institution, which kind of puts the workload on that institution. And as far as updating things, I think it's much easier on everybody if there's if different people are updating the content. It's not such a burden on one person or one institution. But so I don't know. Maybe there was a thought that they could remain what they are in their current forms, and there could just be like on the ACRL website there could be like a link to Wes' website and then C's website, and they could be retained. Maybe be called something slightly different. I mean, it could just be the Slavic and the East European and Eurasian website or something like that. So I don't know. The only other question I have is if we call it the section, the European section, what happens to the whole Central Asia type area things that seem to be or fall outside of the geographical region of Europe, right?
It's funny. I was just thinking about that the other day. That we're not really acknowledging that area, and I'm not sure. I haven't discussed it with anyone on the west side, but that is something we should look into. It's an odd situation just because geographically, it doesn't fall in that section, but historically, obviously,
right.
we're dealing with it.
I can't imagine that they're going to be open to the Eurasian section, right? It doesn't sound so great.
Yeah, I think they might feel a little marginalized.
But
it also, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there's still, the African, Asian, Middle Eastern section, technically that should fall to them. If you look at it, strictly from a geographical sense. But, I'm not familiar with their group. Do they have anything concerned with Central Asia of their own? Does anyone know?
Let me look it up.
Not that I'm saying that we should just abandon Central Asia, but I'm not. I was thinking about that just the other day, considering that when ABSI's or rather AAA changed its name, they made a point of including Eurasia in there, and I often wondered why we haven't done similar. It's a little late to add it to CEAS, but that is a good question about what to do with it in the new group. I'll have to talk with Jeff about that. I'll put that on my list.
Well, there is that Eurasia and Central Asia subcommittee of IRC.
Oh, right.
No, it's not part of ACRL, but it is part of ALA.
Okay.
So let's see. About AIMS. Represents librarians and specialists in the field of Asian, African, and Middle Eastern area studies. So it doesn't look like it really covers Central Asia per se, unless you consider that part of Asia. It doesn't identify Central Asia specifically.
I don't know if there's a tidy way to somehow include it in the new name or new acronym, but there should be a way to acknowledge that even though geographically it doesn't fall into Europe, that it's still something that falls under our umbrella as an area.
Yeah. I just find it so odd that there's a section called the Asian and North, and well, it used to be the In 1969, it was created as the Asian and African section, and the initial name was Asian and North Africa section. And then it was the Asian and African full section, and the Middle East was added in 1993. I just find it so odd that there's a section that covers Asia and Africa as one section, you know.
Well, I don't know the history, but is it possible that it's similar to our current situation, that they realized, you know, individually as a group, as separate groups are too small, maybe banded together? I don't know. It's just a thought.
Well, you know, I don't really know. I mean, you know, the East Asians have their own organization that's part of the, you know.
Oh, that's true.
The what is it? It's the East Asian group. The East Asian librarians are part of Council on East Asian Libraries, and then there's a Council on East Asian Studies, I think. Because our East Asian librarians go to that meeting every year. So I don't really know why it was, you know, created to encompass both the Asians and the Africans within it, you know, those continents within ALA. But
yeah, it's the same with the South Asian components. South Asian librarians have their professional mailing list, and they attend the South Asian conferences and the Asian Studies conferences. And the ALA section seems to be really inactive. Mm-hmm. So it's probably from that practical lack of activity on the ALA mailing list, I get the sense that it may have been just some historical leftover that was probably set up with some purpose in mind, but it's just not been very active in most areas that it designates itself for, just because, again, other professional venues have been actively used for these activities.
Okay. Again, I'll bring up that issue with Jeff when he and I get in touch. I don't think I have it on the screen here. Just to give you an idea of the timeline for this merger, we're currently in year 3 of the transition process, and according to the timelines of May 2016, year 3 section starts transition planning. April 2017 is year 4, and transition plans are due for consideration at the ACRL Spring Executive Committee meeting. So the good news is we're sort of ahead of the curve here. You know, we're not going to have to rush, although it's obviously something we don't want to put off until April 2017. And then by August 31, 2017 of year 4, transition should be complete. So that's the basics of what happened in San Francisco. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Again, I'm going to be putting something more concrete together to give you more details.
Brenda, this is Kirill. I wanted to briefly comment. We only have a couple minutes, but just to provide some history. So we submitted a cis desiderata to WES about a merger proposal, which included joining with Ames originally, and we proposed creating an area studies section. One of the justifications was that, you know, precisely Central Asia and the Caucasus and diaspora studies, and the justification, you know, we point out that West librarians work on Francophone Africa, Latin America, diaspora studies as well, so it's not just really Europe. But that proposal was rejected by WES. However, I think it would be good to revisit the name and the scope of our activities. You know, even if Ames is not included, which it's not going to be. But I think it would be good to revisit Eurasia or diaspora studies and somehow incorporate that into the name. That's all.
This is John. I can imagine that proposal was rejected probably be in part because there is no other professional organization specifically dedicated to Western European studies other than this that I'm aware of. That is like there is like the area studies societies such as ACES and the East Asian and South Asian societies and the African Studies Council. So and like the SALAM for Latin America. I don't believe there is something else that is Europe/Western Europe other than the West presence. Is that right? Is anybody else aware of something like that?
I believe you're correct, John. And in fact, I'm looking now at the minutes from that exchange, and this is precisely one of the reasons for the rejection, is that WES has no equivalent to ACES or MELA. So WES is their only professional organization for West European librarianship, and they do not want to dilute it or jeopardize it by joining a bigger non-European group.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. That's perfectly logical. I understand their reasoning, and I think that they should have an organization that identifies them in their field. I think that's pretty important. That's one of the reasons why we didn't want to merge in the first place, is because we felt like it would be a loss of identity, and so it sounds like they want to maintain that identity and presence too. So anyway, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I would agree. And the sort of compromise that both of us can make is to just say, well, let's just call it Europe. And both sides at the moment seem more or less willing to do that. But right, if you start trying to expand that to including the rest of the FSU, they might feel a little marginalized.
We could call it the Europe and its empires section. No, I'm just kidding.
Basically the planet, minus China. Yeah.
Again, all good. It's a very good question, and I'll have to wait and see. Yeah, we're getting a little late here. So any other questions? Anything else anyone wants to say? And again, I'm going to be putting more detailed report out for the CEAS website, and then it'll be in the newsletter as well, more details. And as new things come up, I'll include them as well. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
Brenda, did I understand you correctly that the transition plan is due in December of this year, 2016?
No, April 2017 is transition plans are due for consideration. That's what I have on my notes here, which I think I just copied from one of the documents directly from ACRL.
I might be looking at a slightly different timeline. Mine has the April deadline, but it also has kind of a addendum that says encourage submission of translation plans in December for consideration at the midwinter 2017 board meeting to allow time for review and discussion. So if that is in fact true, that kind of pushes up our deadline almost 6 months. So we should follow up on that.
You're right. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you for pointing that out. Oh my goodness. You're right. Just sort of push it up. Okay. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. Anything else? Anybody?
Thank you for organizing the meeting. Oh,
well, thank you all for attending and all your reports and all your hard work. It's just out of curiosity, how many people are planning on going to Orlando?
I'm planning on it. I just put in a travel request so to make sure I get the money, but I'm planning on it.
John is planning.
Mark is not.
Kirill, I don't think it's possible for me this year.
How could you say no to Orlando at the end of June? It's such a lovely time of year there. That's sarcasm, by the way.
Got it.
I'll be there.
I might be there in Michigan.
I'm not sure. It depends on funding and a few other commitments. But I think it's also the recurrent issue every year, the membership attendance at these meetings. So is it required that we do have an actual live meeting at the ALA annual as a section?
I don't think it's required, but I think traditionally that's when more people do get funding is for annual versus midwinter. But I don't think it's required by anybody. It's more maybe just tradition.
Okay.
Well, I am planning on going against my better judgment, but there will, and I've already put in a request. As far as I know, the meeting times will be the same as they were in San Francisco, which was Saturday afternoon, I think at like 1 o'clock for all sections and then 3 o'clock for the executive committee. I believe that's what the times were.
So from 1 to 3 would be the section committees, and then from 3 on would be the executive committee. So there would be like 2 hours for the committees, right?
Yeah, I think it's like an hour and a half. They put like a half-hour gap in between.
Oh.
But I think they do that in case they have to schedule them in separate locations, which doesn't usually happen. But I think it happened in San Francisco, but we just had to switch rooms, not buildings.
My kids have put a spell on me to take them to Hogwarts.
Oh, I feel so bad for you. Well, you're a good dad. So.
We'll see.
Okay, I guess that's everything I had to say. Anybody? Last call? No? All right. In which case, I guess we're done. Thank you all for attending and presenting. And if you have any other questions for the separate committees or for me, just, let us know.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Brenda.
you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, Brenda. Okay.
Oh, you there?
Yes, okay. You're done.